Hey guys, look what I got. That's right, I got the Eleven Hobby 1100mm T-28D Trojan. This is a plug-and-play RC plane, Warbird with retracts, flaps, and it's got a special new foam that we're going to take a nice good look at. So I'm going to quit talking and we're going to open this thing up and see what's going on inside the box. Alright guys, here is a look at what comes inside the box. As you can see, or not see, the angle might not be favorable for that, but it is packaged nicely, just like any comparable product that you would normally see on my channel. And one thing that I noticed right away is this foam is super smooth. I'll get in a little more detail here shortly on that, but it almost feels like someone used some fine grit sandpaper to take a look at, or to refine this. I'm not sure if that has to do with the foam itself or the mold that they use. Either way, the end result is super smooth. So I think this will be nice and slick in the sky, but I'm going to quit talking about that. I'm going to unpackage this and we're going to take a closer look. Alright guys, as you can see, this is what comes inside the box. Right down here we've got two props, which is very nice, although I'm not sure if there's actually a need for a second one, because this one is really solid as like a FMS prop, so unless it snaps off, unless I do something silly, it should last me quite a while, so that's good. Here's a little accessories pack. I haven't learned what everything in here does and is for. I do know that this is supposed to have an only 15-minute build time, so it makes sense that there aren't tons of parts and pieces. Of course, this carbon fiber stick right here goes in there for the horizontal stabilizer. And as you can see back there, we've got the main wing. It's got servos installed for both the flaps and ailerons, and also it's got the retracts, as you can see if you look there right in the center of your screen. And last but not least, back there we've got our fuselage, and for the front landing gear we've got the retracts underneath there. We'll take a look at all that coming up next. As promised, here is a look at the fuselage. It has a very nice bright red and black. The black is nice and rich. The foam is nice and smooth. Feels solid, but light and smooth. One of those things you've got to experience in person to really understand, so hopefully I'm doing it justice explaining it right now. But my feeling on it is positive at this point. This is where the front landing gear retracts into, and of course once we put this together I will show you, I'll demonstrate the retracts working. So there's that, and to get the canopy open all you gotta do is pull on that, similar to most RC planes, those from E-Flight and Park Zone in particular. Speaking of that, those of you that have 2200 milliamp hour 3S batteries can use those on this plane. Got some balsa in there on the battery bay. Got the ESC back in there. It's a 40 amp ESC. Of course, we've got the items that are going to plug into our receiver, rudder, gear, etc. And we've got some Velcro built in there, so that's good. Built-in Velcro to keep it secure, as well as a tie-down strap. Let's look back here at the rudder area. This plane really looks nice, guys. I really like it. Its looks so far. I'm curious to fly it, of course. That's when we have our moment of truth. But so far, so good. Aesthetically, this thing is passing the GB Linden test so far. Alright, here is a look at the main wing. as I alluded to earlier, this foam is nice and smooth. I really like that. It also feels strong, which is a good thing, but it also feels light. So this foam so far is definitely earning points. So here we've got the flaps. Here we've got the ailerons that I talked about earlier. You saw them from afar. And it looks like we've got rubber wheels in here, which is always a good thing, especially if you plan to land on paved road, which you should probably do if you're landing with retracts. Grass is probably not the best for most retracts, including these. And that's it for the wing. In fact, I'm not going to wait any longer. I'm just going to build this thing, and I'm going to time it and see how long it takes me to put this thing together. Alright guys, this is what it looks like all put together. The build could definitely take 15 minutes or less if you're an experienced builder. For a lot of people it might take just a little bit longer, but this thing is very straightforward. I do have one tip regarding the tail area, and I'm going to show you that right now. That will help your build when you're building this, or at least I hope it does. Alright guys, the only thing that was a little bit tricky was snaking this pin into there. And my tip for you today is just unscrew that, pop it off, and make it so it's easier to access. That way you can, snake that through just a little bit easier. It's possible to do it the other way, but that is my recommendation. It will save you a lot of headache, and you're less likely to damage things. So that's my quick tip on that. Up next, we are going to test the control surfaces. So here we go with our control surfaces test. Now I set up my DX6 similar to how I have my E-flite Dallas doll set up, with a couple of differences, and I'm going to show you in the display menu here shortly. But first, we are going to show you the control surfaces moving. Here we got the elevator, and I've got this in low rates right now with 70% dual rates and 30% expo. Now this is 100% throw, so as you can see we've got a lot of throw. And now we are going to do the rudder. Oops. And this is on low rates, of course. And it also moves the nose wheel when I'm doing that. Now there isn't any linkage coming from, kind of like on the Park Zone and E-flite ones, you've got the linkage connecting through the fuselage. The setup is actually pretty ingenious. I'll show you that shortly when I show you the retracts. It's really nice actually. So there's that. Alright, so here's the rudder in high rates. Lots of throw. Low rates, still plenty of throw. Alright, now we're going to go to the ailerons. And even though those are a distance away from the camera, you can see that there's still plenty of throw. And this is on low rates. And that's on high rates, so even more throw. Low rates again. And again, this is 70-30, 70% dual rates and 30% expo. Alright, and last but not least, we've got the flaps. And I'm gonna, there we go. So there's half flaps, and that's full flaps. Now the servo travel for full flaps, it didn't seem to like the same setting as I had in here for the Dallas doll. Seemed to like a little less flap. So I'm going to go in here and show you what my settings are. So I adjusted the position to a little bit different because the servos didn't seem to like to go as far as the position 2 setting is for the Dallas stall, which is fine because honestly I usually just land half flaps anyway, and this is a T-28 which will slow down nicely on its own, so any more than half flaps is probably overkill anyhow. And as you can see, I've got it set to 2 seconds, so that should reduce the ballooning that some folks are getting. Alright guys, here is a look at the landing gear in action. As you can tell, it looks very nice. Very nice indeed. And what I was talking about earlier, if you look in here, you can see a really smart system set up for the nose wheel. And I'm really impressed. I like it. Normally in the fuselage there's a bunch of connective stuff that connects to the rudder and to the nose wheel, and it's usually in the way, kind of a pain in the ass. It's not set up like that here. It's a really smart design, and I like it. I can't wait to test it, and that's what we're going to do here pretty soon. Here's a look at the wheels. They're rubber. They look fairly durable. We're going to test it, of course. I'm going to do a couple quick little final notes, and then I'm going to set this up to go flying when the weather permits. Alright, I know a lot of you guys really like things that have attention to detail, and this pilot he looks really cool actually. Nice scale detail in the face. The cockpit on both sides has some nice dashboard display detailing. Of course, behind it, not so much, but all the display and everything on both sides look pretty good. Here's a quick look inside the battery bay. As you can see, there is a lot of space in there. What I was talking about before, there's no linkage to the nose wheel to the rudder section, which is really nice because you've got a lot of space to work with. Make adjustments as you see fit. I definitely like putting the receiver farther back because A, it's farther away from the battery, and B, it's farther away from the ESC too, so less chance of RF interference, which is always a good thing. One other note, there's not a ton of vertical clearance under the canopy. I'm not sure why that is, but when you've got Velcro sitting under the receiver like that, there's just not a lot of room, so I moved it farther back. It made it so the canopy sit on a little bit tighter. So I wanted to give you another tip there, guys. And I will be right back with my unboxing notes. Alright guys, here are my unboxing notes. Probably the biggest one that I wanted to call out is the tail section here. The way the horizontal stabilizer fits in here is absolutely rock solid. These are reinforced. Now first you've got to push those in nice and tight. They fit in very snug. There is a plastic spar that goes across that holds it in place. In addition, basically to compare this setup versus my Park Zone T-28, I'll tell you a quick story. A couple weeks ago, I went and took out my T-28, beautiful day, perfect flying environment, and took off, and I had no up elevator. Basically, I went up and down with throttle and kind of had a rough landing as a result. Now, when I got it on the ground, I was wondering what happened. Did I blow out a servo? Did whatever? Because I've had that T-28 for a while. What happened was the tape that holds that on came loose. This is held on by metal screws. The Park Zone and E-Flight models are held on by tape. Cheap tape. So, to me, especially after that recent experience, this is a huge pro. In addition, this has a nice spar. It's well hidden. You can only see it in the landing gear bay underneath, but it's got a nice spar going across the main wing like a lot of the new E-Flight planes do. It's got nice detailing in the cockpit. The retracts are awesome, especially at this price point. The new foam is great. If you compare that, there wasn't enough room to compare the T-28 side by side and keep it in the frame, because these are not small planes, especially for this environment here. But a quick side-by-side comparison off camera, the biggest thing that stood out to me was the quality of the foam. This is lighter foam first. Secondly, it's far smoother and it feels stronger. Across the board, it feels stronger. So that is a huge pro. The bumps and lumps and 2007 technology foam molding that the T-28 has, it just looks old and dingy in comparison. Now, that's a great flying plane. We'll find out how this flies coming up as soon as we're able to. But for a pure unboxing, aesthetics, what I see, this thing is very impressive. In addition, it's got the triple bladed prop, working retracts, rubber tires, flaps installed. It's the only thing that is a little bit disappointing, and it's a minor con, and I'm sure I'll find a way around it, is the canopy doesn't fit on quite as snugly as I had hoped. I mean, it's still alright, but have to give it a pull to get it off, but not quite as snug as its competition. At least not the way that I've got it set up. And I'm sure there are some mods to deal with that. But that's it. Everything else is awesome. The motor seems extremely powerful. And it's 3S 2200. And that's it for this unboxing and review. Like, comment, and subscribe. And GB Linden